Atlanta, Georgia, July 27, 1996. The city was buzzing with energy. The Centennial Olympic Park, built as a central gathering spot for summer games, was alive with music, food, and celebration. People from all over the world danced, laughed, and wandered freely between concerts and vendor booths. At 1 a.m., a local band wrapped up their set on the main stage. The crowd began to shift and settle. Security officers made their final rounds, checking trash bins, fences, benches. One of them was Richard Jewell, a 33-year-old security guard working the night shift. He had previously worked in law enforcement and took his duties seriously. Some said too seriously. Around 1:20 a.m., Jewell noticed something strange, an unattended olive green military-style backpack sitting beneath a bench near the sound tower. Suspicious and alert, he radioed for the bomb squad immediately. "I don't like the look of this bag," he reportedly told another officer. "We need this area cleared now." The backpack wasn't moving. No one claimed it, and Jewell didn't wait around. He began pushing people back, ordering the nearby concert-goers to move as far as possible from the tower. What happened next would make him both a hero and a target. Just minutes after Richard Jewell began moving people away from the area, the bomb detonated. At 1:25 a.m., a homemade pipe bomb hidden inside the backpack exploded with a deafening roar. Shrapnel tore through the crowd. Panic erupted instantly. People ran in every direction, many screaming, others too stunned to move. Smoke filled the night air. Screams blended with sirens. The once joyful Olympic celebration had turned into a scene of confusion and bloodshed. One person was killed by the blast, Alice Hawthorne, a 44-year-old mother visiting the park with her daughter. Over 100 others were injured, some seriously. A cameraman from NBC died of a heart attack while running toward the chaos. But it could have been much worse. Many believe that Jewell's quick reaction saved dozens of lives. His insistence on calling in the bomb squad and pushing people back likely prevented mass casualties. Initially, that's how the media told the story. Security guard helps avert Olympic Park massacre. One local headline read the next morning. FBI agents on the scene agreed. At first, he saw something others didn't. One agent would later recall. He trusted his gut, and that probably saved lives. But as the dust settled, a new question surfaced. What if the man who found the bomb planted it? For the first 48 hours, Richard Jewell was hailed as a hero. He gave interviews. He smiled humbly in front of cameras. His mother, Bobby, beamed with pride. For once, Richard felt respected, like his lifelong dream of being in law enforcement was finally justified. But behind the scenes, the FBI had started asking questions. They were following what's known as the hero bomber profile, a theory suggesting that some bombers plant explosives themselves to later discover and appear as saviors. It wasn't based on evidence, just psychology. And Richard Jewell fit their model. Single, lives with his mother, failed to make it as a police officer, takes his job too seriously, seeks validation. He had access. He found the device. He fits the pattern, one agent reportedly told his supervisor. Within days, Richard was no longer treated like a hero. On July 30th, just 3 days after bombing, the media caught wind of the FBI's interest. CNN was the first to report it. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution followed with a front-page headline. FBI suspects hero guard planted bomb. Richard Jewell turned on his television and saw his own name smeared across the screen, as if a verdict had already been reached. From that moment on, everything changed. Almost overnight, Richard Jewell's life turned into a living nightmare. The FBI didn't arrest him. Not yet. But they didn't have to. They surrounded him with suspicion. Agents showed up at his apartment with a search warrant. They took his belongings, computers, notebooks, even boxes of books and videotapes. They seized his mother's Tupperware, his socks, her favorite Bible. The implication was clear. Everything was evidence. They were looking for bomb-making materials, Jewell would later say. But all they found were leftovers and laundry. News helicopters hovered above his building. Reporters camped out on the lawn, shoving microphones in his face every time he stepped outside. Late-night shows mocked him. Talk radio called him a wannabe cop. And the FBI, they turned up the pressure. Agents invited him to headquarters under the guise of filming a training video. Once inside, they tried to get him to waive his rights. Tried to get him to say the bomb could have been an accident, a mistake. But Jewell didn't fold. He kept saying the same thing. I didn't do it. Still, the damage was done. Public opinion had flipped. He went from being the man who saved lives to the man who nearly took them. His mother, Bobby, was heartbroken. They ripped apart my home, she told reporters. They're treating my son like he's a monster. And through it all, Richard kept hoping someone would see the truth. But the FBI wasn't looking for someone else. They were looking at him. Weeks passed, and despite round-the-clock surveillance, Richard Jewell never slipped. No confession. No suspicious activity. No evidence. Behind closed doors. Even some FBI agents began to question the case. There was nothing concrete, said one former investigator. No forensic link. No eyewitness. Just a profile and pressure. And that pressure was mounting. Jewell's legal team pushed back hard. They demanded to know why their client was being smeared in the media without charges. They pointed out that the only thing Richard had done was exactly what law enforcement had trained him to do. Meanwhile, in Washington, top Justice Department officials reviewed the case, and what they saw disturbed them. A man publicly crucified based on psychological assumptions and media frenzy, not facts. Then the break came. Another bomb, this time at an abortion clinic in Alabama. Same materials, same design, same signature. The FBI took a step back. And finally, they looked in a new direction. Not at Richard Jewell, but at someone else entirely. A former Army explosives expert named Eric Robert Rudolph. He had quietly slipped through the cracks, while all eyes were on the wrong man. And just like that, the case against Richard Jewell began to fall apart. In October 1996, just 3 months after the bombing, the FBI officially cleared Richard Jewell of all suspicion. There were no charges, no apology, just silence. By then, the damage had already been done. His name, once praised, was forever linked to an accusation he didn't deserve. His reputation had been shredded, his privacy destroyed, and his career in law enforcement permanently derailed. I'm innocent, he said in a rare public statement. And I always was. His mother, Bobby, wept during every interview, still in disbelief that her son, the man who saved lives, had been treated like a criminal. Years later, Eric Robert Rudolph was captured and confessed not only to the Olympic bombing, but to several other deadly attacks. He is now serving multiple life sentences without parole. Richard Jewell, however, never truly recovered. He eventually returned to working in law enforcement, quietly serving as a sheriff's deputy. He refused to play the victim, but the media never gave him peace. His name always came with a footnote. In 2007, he died from heart failure at just 44 years old. FBI officials later admitted their mistakes. So, did the media? The case of Richard Jewell is now taught in journalism schools and criminal justice programs as a cautionary tale about the power of assumptions and the cost of getting it wrong. He did everything right, one agent said years later, and we treated him like he did everything wrong. Richard never asked to be a hero, but he became one, both for what he prevented and for what he endured.